120 people we apparently had contacted. I gather it's some 80 for this book. He complains that many didn't cooperate, friends of the Duchess. Well, indeed, anyone who was a friend of Meghan and who cooperated with Tom Bower wouldn't be a friend for long.
It's going to be a very interesting movie if it comes to light. And, we have this book that we have to talk about. Tom Bower is releasing this book. And we've heard excerpts so far, read excerpts, and there's a lot of bombshell revelations. So what was kind of your reaction when you read some of these excerpts so far? And do you, find truth in any of this?
Well, one has to say this about Tom Bower. I mean, he's the Rottweiler of biographers. He takes colourful, larger-than-life figures, Tiny Roland, Robert Maxwell, Muhammad Al-Fayed, Boris Johnson, these sort of types, and he said, and I read his book on the biography of the Prince of Wales. Now, the problem with that book, it was bristling with endless attacks on the prince, to the extent where it became completely counterproductive. You were just reading what essentially, however well written, was a long rant. The problem was that it simply wasn't sourced authoritatively. There were 120 people we apparently had contacted. I gather it's some 80 for this book. He complains that many didn't cooperate, friends of the Duchess. Well, indeed, anyone who was a friend of Meghan and cooperated with Tom Bower wouldn't be a friend for long. Mm-hmm. I mean, the problem is, what do you believe? And as you ask the question, I mean, the first is being serialized in the Times. I haven't read the book yet, it's not yet out, but the fact that Queen is supposed to have said Meghan was pregnant at the time, this was when the Duke of Edinburgh died. Of course, this taken just post the notorious interview that Harry and Meghan gave on Oprah. But the fact that Queen is supposed to utter the words, "Thank goodness Meghan is not coming," and she's supposed to have said so in a clear voice to have trusted aides. Well, I don't believe that, frankly. I don't think that is the way the Queen thinks, and I don't think that the word trusted aides could possibly imply this is how on earth did Tom Bower get hold of this quote. They wouldn't be very trusted for very long. There are a whole series of revelations. For example, we've all heard of At the Age of 11 and the Procter & Gamble advertisement which Meghan called out for being sexist, when Hillary Clinton and Procter & Gamble subsequently changed this doubt is cast on this, since apparently Vanity Fair, which had the famous interview wild about Harry whilst when they were getting up and before they were going up and before they were engaged, apparently Vanity Fair didn't include it because they couldn't find proof of it. Of course, that doesn't mean it didn't happen, but according to Tom Bower, it was in fact her father who, so to speak, set this up. Now, whether that's true or not, again, I don't know. So far as Vanity Fair is concerned, we learned that Meghan was appalled at the interview, which she much prized having, was about her, or mainly about her, the emphasis her and Harry. On what else would it be, one wonders, and not about her philanthropy. Again, do you believe that? And do you believe that? And I mean, this, for example, there is the ring of truth in this. As we know, before the wedding, there were tremendous difficulties with reference to Thomas Markle, Meghan's now estranged father. Now, I always thought it was very odd, and maybe the book does deal with this aspect of it, but I haven't seen it, as that Harry and Thomas Markle didn't meet. We knew, or hadn't by the time of the engagement. We knew also that apparently Thomas Markle was supposed to turn up at the wedding, but he was a reclusive figure, and he was someone you'd have thought who might have been asked earlier so as to give him a few run-throughs. I mean, it's unclear exactly what was intended, because somebody is a bit reclusive and then you expose them to the glare and all this publicity, it can be tremendously stressful. We know also that supposedly he had, of course, the health problems, but before that, there was the difficulty, putting it mildly, where he collaborated with the paparazzi to give himself a different image. Now, it may very well be that, according to the book, the Queen wanted or was hoping that something would be done by Meghan to bring him on board and possibly fly out and see him. Again, of course, we do not know if it's true or not, but what we do know, and we don't know if there's a specific conference with the Queen and the Prince of Wales and the Sussexes, but it makes sense, surely, that there would have been, because obviously this has suddenly erupted and it's unforeseen. This Meghan's father, it still isn't clear, as I say, at least as far as I'm concerned, why Harry wasn't introduced to him before, since we understood then that the relations between father and daughter were not at their current level anyway. I would have thought it only reasonable as a suggestion. But again, there's this whole list of things. I can well imagine Harry's Etonian friends not understanding Meghan, for example. Now, that rings true to me, whether it was the case or not. We'd heard this before. It's in the book.
Mm-hmm. Do you think the royal family do you think that this book will cause even further rift between Harry and Meghan? Do you think Harry and Meghan are dreading this book coming out as well?
I think the publicity for this sort of book is that they are reading it. I really feel it's simply that there's a certain amount of publicity about it, but my own feeling is that the book will obviously be, I would suspect, her lawyers will look very closely through it. Equally, if we want to sue Tom Bower, it's happened in the past. He is a very formidable operator. I don't think that there is overmuch concern in the Sussex camp on this, because it was perfectly clear a book called Revenge. I suspect it will be a knocking job that may or may not be true, but will undoubtedly be pitched so over the top. It's rather like, I suspect, the biography of the Prince of Wales, so over the top that it's, in a sense, almost counterproductive. So when newspapers have got a few headlines from it, these things, when it comes to books, what matters is whether Harry's autobiography comes out. Now, that's a different matter.
Yeah, that will be interesting. Speaking of Harry as well, I mean, he just addressed the UN and got pretty political in his speech. Was that a surprising turn for Harry, in your opinion?
I think that you would expect a speech of that sort before the General Assembly on Nelson, on the day which marks the respect internationally for the greatest statesman of our time, Nelson Mandela. I mean, the nearest this world has had in recent decades to a secular saint, a truly remarkable individual. I was present when he addressed both houses of Parliament when Betty Boothroyd was Speaker in the 1990s, which was an extraordinary honour. And he is someone who, I mean, the truly remarkable individuals we all know. And Harry will have been very pleased to have been asked to do this. What he said, I don't think that that's a surprise, because clearly we know that there are the crises of pandemic and also climate change, and also the war, in Russian invasion of Ukraine. And it's unsurprising that something he said was interpreted to be critical of the, in my opinion, absolutely ghastly decision by the Supreme Court to in the Roe versus Wade issue.
Definitely. Well, Richard, thank you so much. I really appreciate your time as always. It's always a pleasure. Thank you.
That's a great pleasure.
Hey everyone, I'm Christina Garibaldi, the host of Us Weekly Celebrity Coverage. Don't forget to hit subscribe for the latest celebrity news, tips, and video. And for much more content, make sure you head on over to usmagazine.com, the official home of Us Weekly Magazine.